Well, it's only a few weeks to go until Mariners spring training, and I just got back from the Mariners spring training luncheon at Safeco Field, so I thought I'd do this vodcast to sort of fill you in on what's going on. There was a lot of news that came out of that luncheon today. For me, the biggest one was Bill Bavasi, General Manager Bill Bavasi, standing up and basically saying that all talks are still on in terms of the Mariners trying to land another top-of-the-rotation starting pitcher. Now, you have to know about Bavasi. He never mentions any names directly, but he's obviously talking about Eric Bedard from the Baltimore Orioles, and he's obviously talking about center field prospect Adam Jones when he talks about who he's going to trade to get Bedard. So according to Bavasi, all talks are still on. Bavasi says it's very necessary for the team to get another top-of-the-rotation starter. He feels the team is ready to contend as early as this year, ready to seriously contend, if not beat out the Angels for the AL West, and that there's one more move to make, and it's to get that top-of-the-rotation starter. He says there's no point hanging on to top prospects if they're not going to be playing for you every day, or if they can't help you win right away. And he's going to make this move and bring in the pitcher that he thinks can help him win. So that means all talks are on still for Adam Jones, Eric Bedard. Bavasi says he's not going to give up a whole slew of top-ranked prospects, but he is willing to give up a top prospect and multiple bodies in return to get that top-of-the-rotation starter that he needs. So that was one aspect for me, the most important one that came out of today. There were other issues that arose as well, though, that stem from what we were talking about. There was a lot of talk about how the rotation has to improve in order to help the bullpen avoid collapsing the way it did last August and September. And we had Norm Charlton, the new bullpen coach, very talkative guy. He was up there and he minced no words when he said what was responsible for the collapse last year. He said there were too many young guys that were just running out of gas near the end, and a lot of it had to do with the lack of ability of starters to go deep into games. And he actually put some blame. He sort of hinted that former manager Mike Hargrove was to blame, because he said Hargrove was basically playing for his job every night last April, May, and June, and that he was bringing the bullpen into the fifth inning of games where he really could have left the starters out a little bit longer. Now, Charlton wouldn't go flat out directly accuse Hargrove of doing that, but he did hint that it was a possibility. Well, then I asked John McLaren about that moments later, since McLaren was with the team last April, May, and June, unlike Charlton, who was only a minor league advisor at the time, and McLaren basically confirmed that for me. He said that, yes, he thought that Hargrove at times and the rest of the staff was playing for their jobs and was bringing the relievers into pitch a little earlier in games than they normally would have if they weren't under that kind of pressure. Now, McLaren wouldn't go and all out throw Hargrove under the bus, but he did say that it had something to do with what was going on, and he expects to see some improvements this year. He expects to be able to take the reins off of Brandon Morrow and off of Felix Hernandez and other young pitchers more than he did last year, and he thinks that that could help the rotation both go longer, and if Morrow's in the bullpen, could help the bullpen do a better job than it did last year. Other news that was brought in by McLaren, he's going to be bringing in some guest coaches into spring training. A couple of them that are pretty interesting. Rich Amaral, the former Mariners reservist, is going to come in and teach base stealing techniques to some of the speedier guys like Ichiro, like Yuneski Betancourt, hoping that they can steal more bases. As well, they're also going to bring in longtime major leaguer Tony Phillips, a very intense, controversial guy who is known for putting it all out on the field every time he plays. They want him to come in and teach the younger players how to leave it all out on the field, sort of what Jose Guillen was doing in his clubhouse role last year. So that's about all we have to tell you right now. Spring training set in a couple of weeks, but right now, if I were you, I would be looking to see if this Eric Bedard trade actually gets done in the next couple of weeks, because that's when it will happen.